Hey guys, welcome to Telling the Told, Untold. My name is Tshego. Today we're going to be talking about one of South Africa's most notorious serial killers, Cedric Maake. He was also known as the taxi driver killer, the house invasion killer, the street sniper, as well as the Tailor Killer, but he's most known as the Wemmer Pan killer, hence the title of today's video. Also, I'll be telling the story in chronological order, just because it will be easier for you guys to understand. Also, Cedric didn't have a profile type, so he just targeted both males and females, everyone of different races. So I do struggle with some of the name pronunciations, so I'll just put them on the screen if I can't pronounce them. And yeah, very little is known about Cedric's life. He was born on the 10th of September 1963 in Limpopo. He really didn't speak much to police officers after he got arrested, but he does describe one moment in his life that has stuck with him for decades and decades. And this is when he was 12 years old and he just went to the bush for a traditional initiation, which is just circumcision. And he says that he was there for about 3 months with no food and water, and describes this as very barbaric. Cedric's father passed away whilst he was in grade 10, and after this he decided to leave school so that he could take care of his family. He decided to move to Johannesburg, and this is where he became a self-employed plumber. And he had a wife and 4 children back home in Limpopo, and in Johannesburg he had another relationship. At 33 years old, he was living in La Rochelle, Johannesburg, when seemingly without any warning or trigger, he began his life of crime. On the 28th of December 1996, Antonia Alfonso was working in Hill Gardens Cafe in High Street, Rottenville, and this is when Cedric decided to enter that cafe and started hitting Antonia with a hammer. He stole 400 rands, and after this he decided to use this money for his New Year's and then decided to strike again. Magan Kanji was a 78-year-old man working in his own store in Madison Street, JP. At around 10 a.m., Cedric entered the store and just told this man that he needed a second pair of trousers because he was a plumber. The man found a pair of trousers that fit Cedric, and as he was putting them in a plastic bag for Cedric to take home, Cedric started attacking him with a shifting spanner. He hit Magan in his left eye, and after this he fled the scene, and Magan only gained consciousness once he was back in hospital. 2 days later, Cedric entered Terminus Butchery in Basinhead Avenue, Troyville. He bludgeoned Kenny Chan with a hammer and stole cash from the till. Kenny survived. On the 17th of January at around 10:30 a.m., Cedric entered another tailor shop, Philip Brothers. A 58-year-old man was working behind the counter, and Cedric went up to him and just told him that he needed some pants, fix some alterations on the pants. And after the man had done this, Cedric just pointed to a pair of shoes that he wanted and asked the man if he could pay for them by lay-by, to which the man agreed. He then wrote the name Patrick Mokoena on the receipt and said that he was from Bedford View. After this, he pulled out a hammer from his bag and told this man that he needed to get it fixed, to which the man directed him to a hardware store that was nearby. Cedric left, and once he came back, he decided to start attacking the man with the hammer that he had just gotten fixed. He hit the man multiple times and then fled the scene and left behind the pants that he had brought in, as well as the hammer he had just gotten fixed and used. On the 22nd of January, once again, Cedric went into another shop acting as though he was a potential buyer, and once the man turned around, he started attacking him. He managed to take 600 rand with him, and thankfully the man survived. The very next day, Cedric walked into a shop on Van Veilig Street, downtown Johannesburg. There was a man working alone, and this is when Cedric decided to bludgeon him with a hammer. Unfortunately, the man passed away, and this would be the first life that Cedric took. From December 1996 to April 1997, Cedric would attack 11 people and only killed one person. These series of events would later be known as the Hammer series. It is unknown why Cedric decided to change his MO, but after his Hammer series, he then moved on to his Wemapan series. Wemapan is a well-known lake and recreational area located to the south of Johannesburg city centre, and around this time it was an ideal spot for couples to just spend some private time together. Cedric seemed to know this too, because on the 27th of April 1997 he decided to start his Wemapan series. He went to Wemapan, and right in front of the lake he saw a vehicle parked there. Inside the car, there was 58-year-old Elijah Khatwayo and his girlfriend, Eunice Panti. The couple was spending time together when Cedric decided to approach the car. He then shot Elijah in the back of the head and pulled Eunice out of the car. He stole Elijah's wallet as well as his gun, and thereafter took Eunice to a nearby mine dump where he shot and killed her as well. Once police officers got to the scene, they found Elijah and discovered Eunice just a couple of meters away, and at the time they were unable to tell whether she had been raped or not. After this, police officers had to go to Elijah's home just to inform the family of his passing, and this is when his wife opened the door, and they basically just had to tell her that her husband was shot and murdered with the woman that he was having an affair with. Cedric wandered away from the scene, and this is when he came across another woman nearby. He raped the woman and bludgeoned her to death with a rock. She's never been identified. In just one night, Cedric Maake became both a serial killer and a rapist. After this, he decided to move to his third MO, and this is where he started targeting taxi drivers. On the 25th of May, Cedric got into a taxi and he made sure that he was the last person there. And after this, he just directed the taxi driver, Sipho Ndima, to Compound Road, which is near Wemapan. After he got out the car, he went to the driver's window, and this is where he robbed Sipho of 300 rand and shot him several times. Thankfully, Sipho survived. In June that year, Cedric got into the taxi of Michael Mkhize. As they got close to Collin Road, which is near Wemapan, he got out the car, and this is where he robbed Michael of his watch, shoes, and wallet. After this, he shot Michael several times, and thankfully Michael survived. This was the last of Cedric's taxi driver spree. Cedric then briefly returned to his Wemapan series. 49-year-old Ralph Ngwenya and 42-year-old Christina Mashigo were at Wemapan, sitting in front of the lake, just, enjoying each other's company. And this is when Cedric just approached the couple and shot Ralph twice in the back of the head. A passerby saw Ralph and he was barely clinging to life. Paramedics arrived pretty quickly, but unfortunately, whilst they were trying to stabilize Ralph, he passed away. They later found Christina's body nearby, and she had been both raped and shot. Cedric then moved to his fourth MO, which was basically just killing random people that he found on the street. By now, Cedric had gathered at least 3 guns from all of his robberies. On the 16th of June, a woman was jogging on the Soweto highway near Crown Mine when Cedric attacked her. He raped and shot her, killing her instantly. On the 21st of June, Sonti was walking with 2 female friends when Cedric approached them and just started a conversation, when suddenly he decided to pull out a gun and shot Sonti. Fortunately, the 2 female friends were able to run away, and after this, Cedric was able to steal Sonti's ID book, 20 rand, and his shoes. On the 11th of July, Cedric returned to his Wemmer Pan series. Jerry Naidu and his girlfriend Charlotte Ndlovu were sitting in Jerry's car at Wemmer Pan when Cedric approached the car and just basically just like knocked on the window and asked Jerry if he could help him with his cell phone. After this, Jerry rolled down the window, and this is when Cedric fatally shot him in the stomach. After this, he stole Jerry's wallet and then dragged a hysterical Charlotte outside of the car and pistol whipped her. He forced her to walk with her for a couple of meters. Then after this, he robbed her of her leather jacket, glasses, as well as wallet. He then told her to flag down a taxi, which she did, and after this she ran straight to the taxi, slammed the door in Cedric's face, and asked the taxi driver to drive away immediately, to which he did. And fortunately, she survived this ordeal. The very next day, he attacked 35-year-old Moses and 26-year-old Dorcas. He saw the couple at Wemapan and shot Moses twice in the back of the head, instantly killing him. After this, he took Dorcas and they walked to a nearby tree, and thereafter he raped her twice. After he had raped her twice, he tried asking her on a date and then said that she's free to go, she must just leave. And as she's walking away, this man is so you're gonna go to Moses' funeral? First he kills her boyfriend, then rapes her, then asks her on a date, then is are you going to your boyfriend that I just killed's funeral? Does that make sense? After this murder, the Wemmer Pan series was put under one investigation, which was under the Brixton Robbery and Homicide Unit. And this was headed up by Detective Piet Byleveld. I've spoken about him, I think, twice before, and I'll put those videos up there. So basically, if you know Piet Byleveld, if he's put on the case, it's probably really serious, and it's the chances of it being solved are pretty high. 26-year-old Stanley Kulube and his partner Emily Madiba were at Wemapan in their car, just having a good time, and this is when Cedric approached them. He forced the couple to get out of their car, and this is where he just changes things, because he forces the couple to have sex in front of him. He stole Stanley's wallet and then forced the couple to walk to a nearby tree, and as they got to the tree, Stanley managed to run away. Unfortunately, Emily didn't get that opportunity, and thereafter Cedric raped her, and after doing this, he let her go free. On the 18th of July 1997, Cedric decided to murder 5 people using 2 different MOs in 3 different places. His first 2 victims on this day were 25-year-old Samuel Mulume as well as his girlfriend Catherine Lequen. The pair were walking along Main Reef Road in Langlagata when Maake approached them and basically just asked Samuel for his wallet, to which Samuel refused. After this, Cedric shot him 3 times in the head. Cedric then shot Catherine in the knee and dragged her into a nearby bush, where he then proceeded to rape her 2 times. He then proceeded to the Claremont area, where he came across David and Sarah on Princess Avenue. He shot David and thereafter raped Sarah and then shot and killed her as well. He then took David's shoes off of his feet. In another street on Claremont, 19-year-old Martin and 15-year-old Lelani had just pulled over on the side of the road just to have a cigarette. Martin was on his way to drop Lelani off home because he was a DJ and he was just he had been performing that night. And after this, Cedric went up to the car and shot Martin in the head. He then raped Lelani and shot her as well. Lelani was his youngest victim, and she was identified by a Minnie Mouse tattoo that she had on her shoulder. After this insane murderous spree, Cedric only had 1 week downtime before he attacked another couple on Boyson's Reserve Road. But this time he was not alone and had a partner. They demanded money from the couple, but they weren't forthcoming, and after this they assaulted the man and raped and beat the woman to death. After this, Cedric decided to return to his Hammer series. Throughout this Hammer series, Cedric attacked 10 men, killing 4 of them. And it was around this time Piet Byleveld was also put on the case of the Hammer series. And this is just because workers working in the tailor and shoe industry were just complaining that, a lot of their people were being attacked and murdered. And they went up to the police officers and said that this can't be and they need to do something about it. And after this, Piet was put on the case. It is important to note that the Wemapan series and the Hammer series were not yet connected at this point, and Piet just believed that he was dealing with 2 different serial killers. Piet Byleveld decided that he wanted to catch the killer in the act, so basically he just set up surveillance footage, like people surveilling the shops, like different shops in the area, hoping that they would catch the man in the act because they did have a description of him and everything like that. But unfortunately the community weren't happy and they just thought that the police officers weren't doing enough. So they went to the media, and after a couple of days, on newspaper headlines was a description of this man, the name of the victims, name of the survivors, the shops that they had attacked, and also what Piet was doing, which was surveilling certain shops. And obviously Cedric saw this, and after this he decided to not continue with his Hammer series and moved to his 5th and final MO, which was basically just breaking into homes. And after this he had a completely new way of killing his victims. Jose Carus was stabbed to death in his home in Bertha Street. Cedric stole his television, video recorder, wallet, a pair of shoes, and his keys. On the 7th of November, Arthur was beaten to death with a hammer in his home. Cedric once again stole a video machine, portable radio, jewelry, clothes, and a .38 caliber revolver. Obviously, after the newspapers had reported Piet's surveillance, he had to call it off, and after he did, it's believed that Cedric just saw that there was a lack of police presence in the area, and this is when he decided to strike again. On the same day that he killed Arthur, he went to Victoria Fashions in Main Street, Rostenville, and attacked a couple with a hammer. He stole some cash and fled. Unfortunately, the man would not make it. A week later, Cedric killed another man, and after this, his MO changed once again. On the 28th of November, Gerard was in Wemmer Pan riding his bicycle when Cedric saw him. He went up to him, shot him, killing him instantly, and then took the bike and later sold it. On the 12th of December, Minnie and Tandy were in their home in Blue Dam Homestead Park. Cedric went up to the home and basically just told them, he was dressed up as a police officer, and just told them that some things had been stolen, so he had to search their home. After he searched their home, he found nothing and just told them to go back with him to his vehicle. And after they got to their vehicle, he started attacking them. He raped Tandy multiple times, and after this, he shot and killed Minnie. Later that same day, Cedric broke into someone's house in Terfontein and bludgeoned the man to death with a hammer, and thereafter stole his television set. 2 days later, 25-year-old Enoch and 24-year-old Deliswe were just walking through a field when they were approached by Cedric. Cedric forced the couple to have sex with one another, and after this, he fired a warning shot to scare them. Fortunately, both of them were able to escape unharmed. On the 19th of December, Cedric came across another couple in Wemapan. He killed the man and then raped the woman twice, and after a while, he finally released her. Piet Byleveld said around the time of this case that when he goes to crime scenes and stuff, he doesn't just go once, he'll go multiple times just in case he missed something, or so that he can look at it from a different perspective. and this came in handy when he went to one of the Wemmer Pan scenes and found tissue that had DNA on it. It was also around this time where Piet and a female colleague of his decided to go to Wemapan and basically just have like a setup to catch the Wemapan serial killer. So they sat in the car for about 9 hours until it got dark. Piet says that he feared for his colleague's safety and they decided to drive away, and as they were driving away they got a radio call from one of the police officers that were watching the scene, and they said that as they were like starting the car there was a man approaching it, and as soon as they drove away the man went back into the bushes and hid. In late December, Piet Byleveld finally got a break. He received a call from just a member of public, and they were just saying that at a local hotel there was a strange man that was always there, and it seemed as though like he didn't stay there and he really didn't do much. He was always dressed in the same outfit, which was clad green trousers, a grey jersey with a faded printed face on it. They also believe that he might be in a relationship with one of the women that stayed in the hotel. Police officers decided to surveillance this woman. Her name was Angelina, and on the 23rd of December at around 11 a.m. she climbed on a taxi and went to go meet up with a man, and this man was the same one that was reported by that local person a couple of days earlier. Cedric Maake was taken into custody and police found a single bullet cartridge in his pocket, but Cedric refused to say anything to them. Blood was drawn from Cedric and compared to the DNA that they had found at the scene, and it was a match. Cedric Maake was the Wemapan serial killer. Apparently, Cedric didn't take being incarcerated very well. He was very angry, he would swear often, and there was one occasion where Piet Byleveld got a phone call from police officers, and they were basically just saying that Cedric was swearing at them and throwing his feces at the police officers. Piet tried to calm Cedric down, and on one occasion he went to his cell and offered him a cigarette, to which Cedric said he doesn't smoke, and then after that he took the cigarette, put it behind his ear, then took it from his ear and then like crumbled it and threw it on the floor. Piet also said that just after a couple of conversations he found out that Cedric was extremely close to his mother and just decided to like come up with a plan. So he spoke to Cedric and basically just said that, you know, if like he just give him the opportunity to go home and just see his mother for like a couple of minutes. It also came out that Cedric had been giving his mother all of the items he had stolen, so they also had to go there in any case to go get all those things back. After they got to Limpopo, they got all the items Cedric had given to his mother and just let him speak to her for a couple of minutes, and they just said that she looked like really devastated to see her son like handcuffed with police officers all around him. During their visit, it also came up that Cedric's father had two families that were living in one house, and after his death, Cedric and his mother just became like lower class citizens in their own house basically, and Cedric's father's other wife and like family just got most of the inheritance, and because of this Cedric just hated his father basically. It seemed as though Cedric had a change of heart during their car ride back to Johannesburg, and it was during this car ride where he just asked Piet if he'd like to get one of the guns that he had used. And after this they he directed the police officers to the location, and Piet said that he remembers Cedric like he started walking like really fast for someone that was handcuffed, and he got really close to the gun and started bending down, and this is when Piet realized that he was probably going to get the gun and like shoot all the police officers and try and make a break for it. But unfortunately Piet realized that what he was going to do and quickly like ran to him, pushed him away from the gun, and then he got hold of it. Whilst speaking to Cedric's wife, Piet also discovered that early on in their marriage, she used to have multiple affairs, and they would go to Wemmer Pan and like like chill on those it's called koppies. I don't know what a koppie is, but they were chilling like on the koppies. And some of the survivors from like Cedric's ordeals would say that he would shout at them in Afrikaans and chase them up those same koppies. Piet Byleveld still had no idea that Cedric Maake was also the hammer killer, and he only discovered this after he finally like got a hold of the bicycle that Cedric had stolen and took to a pawn shop. He looked at the receipt and saw the name that Cedric had given, which was Patrick Mokoena, which, if you remember earlier in the video, was the name that he had used at one of the stores for the lay-by that he was apparently going to pay. After this, Piet Byleveld made the connection that Cedric Maake was in fact the Wemmer Pan serial killer as well as the hammer killer, and he would later describe him as basically a super killer because he just killed and killed and killed. When Piet Byleveld asked Cedric what his problem was with tailors and why he would go and murder them, Cedric basically just said that it was because there was one time where he took his shirt to a tailor like to go get fixed, and the guy messed it up and he got upset because women would like tear his pants and his shirts, and he just wanted them fixed, and this man didn't fix them, so he just got mad at all of them basically. Eventually, Piet Byleveld managed to connect all 5 MOs to Cedric Maake, and he faced 133 charges in total. Cedric Maake's trial started in April 1998 and went for about 355 days. All of his victims that survived testified, even those that didn't have any recollection of what had happened to them. On the 16th of March 2000, Cedric Maake was found guilty of 27 counts of murder, 26 counts of attempted murder, 41 counts of robbery with aggravating circumstances, 1 count of attempted robbery, 14 counts of rape, 1 count of assault with grievous bodily harm, 3 counts of illegal possession of firearm, and 1 count of illegal possession of ammunition for the single bullet they found in his pocket. He was sentenced to 1,835 years in prison, plus 3 months for the bullet in his pocket. And that is it for today's case. If you guys have any comments, please leave them down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!